Welcome back to iHeartRadio. So Bad It's Good. If you've been listening to this show over the last couple of weeks, I've recommended every week this show that just kind of blew me away and made me feel good and made me feel connected to humanity. A lot of reality shows don't do that. And we joke about that a lot on here, whether it be The Housewives or Survivor or anything like that. But it is so great that I saw this show that kind of not reignited my passion, but made me fall in love with actually being able to see the reality of people and our commonalities. The show we're going to be focusing on today is called Love on the Spectrum. You might have seen 2 of the seasons of the Australian version, and they have a season of the US version now with 6 episodes that I just think they're just so good, funny, heartwarming, everything that you want. It focuses on 7 young adults on the autism spectrum, and they dive headfirst into the dating pool, exploring the unpredictable world of love and relationships. And you guys, it's not that it's exactly what I go through in the dating pool. There's not that much of a difference. But today I get to speak to one of my favorite people from this cast, Kaelynn Partlow. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What has been the experience so far? I guess the show is now airing on Netflix. What's been the experience with just walking around and people knowing who you are a little bit, the social media of it all? What's it been like for you so far?
It's been incredible. I feel like I wasn't prepared for the amount of attention I would get just kind of after the fact. My social media has exploded. Before the show aired, I had 500 Instagram followers, and now I'm at almost 35,000.
You're an influencer now. You influence people. And by the way, you have to go follow her on Instagram because it's great. Like, it's just, I really love your Instagram presence. Is it something that is annoying to you in any sort of way yet? Like, too many voices.
Yeah, sometimes. I have enjoyed getting to engage with people from all over the world who have seen the show. And I think my favorite has been when people reach out and say that it's kind of helped them in some way to see the show, that they can feel like they relate to me or that they understand me, and therefore they've been able to kind of understand themselves or a loved one better. Has been a really incredible feeling.
Can you take us back to what drove you to audition for this show? I mean, were you scouted? Did they come for you, or was there an audition process?
So I saw a Facebook post and someone else had shared it. So it was like a screenshot of a screenshot that someone had shared with an email, just that you could email if you were interested in being a part of the cast. And so I tried it, but I didn't really think anything of it. And I was really surprised when I got a Zoom interview with them. And, one Zoom interview led to the next, and here we are.
Were you aware of Love on the Spectrum, the Australian version?
Yes, I had watched the Australian version, so I knew what it was.
What did you think about how they handled it?
I really liked it. I thought it was really unique in that it really kind of hadn't been done before. And I was really excited to learn that I was able to participate.
Was this something that you actually signed up for to help people understand a little bit more about you and people that are on the spectrum? Or was part of it just like, I'm really looking to find love?
Well, neither, if I'm honest. I kind of am just skeptical in general. And so even after they had confirmed that they were going to come to my house and film, I really kind of didn't believe that it was really happening. It didn't feel real until they knocked on my door and I was like, oh man, they're actually here.
I mean, what did your roommate, because we get to meet your roommate in this as well, and she's a part of a couple of scenes. What did she think about this whole process?
I think she was equally as surprised, just because when does a film crew for international television show up at your doorstep? It just doesn't happen very frequently.
Well, I mean, that was what I was like. It's interesting now to be thrown into reality show stardom. I put that in quotation marks. Just right off the bat, would you consider doing a second season of this if it were to get renewed?
Oh yeah, definitely. I would really love to do that.
Okay, good. That's what I was like. I was hoping that you were like, I never want to be on TV again.
No,
I do
not at all.
like it. Just for people that are just meeting you for the first time, you live in South Carolina, correct? Mm-hmm. And you work with dogs or animals.
Yeah, as kind of a hobby, but my full-time job is I work for Project Hope Foundation, which is a nonprofit serving kids with autism.
And how long have you been doing that for?
7 years.
Wow. So that actually, what you're doing now has to help something like that as well. It kind of all feeds into the same thing.
It does.
So in terms of the audition process, you got on the show, the camera crew shows up. Is there a learning curve in terms of being comfortable on camera? Like if I go on a date, I'm not comfortable. I can't imagine if cameras were also following me around on that date.
So, and I guess in terms of dating with a camera crew, like you said, you're nervous when you go on a date, and I feel the same way. I think everybody is nervous when they go on a first or second or even third date, just because, they're not super comfortable with the person yet. So for me personally, really having a camera there wasn't going to add on to the nerves that I already experienced any more than so it's just like, oh, well, I'm already nervous,
So would you recommend, maybe we could recommend camera crews just following everybody around on a date? It's just like, let's just get everybody's date.
But it didn't hurt either.
So going into this though, you said it was kind of neither, like you weren't looking to find love particularly, and you weren't particularly looking to be on TV and share this message, but knowing that this was a show about something that you have dealt with your whole life, did you have any added pressure in terms of that? Not even with the dating, but like, oh my gosh, now I have to have people learn more about me and what I go through and what others go through. Was there trepidation with that?
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of times the autism community, specifically online, can be critical. And, criticism is not always a bad thing. I think constructive criticism is good and is needed in many areas. But yeah, I was definitely nervous that they would have some maybe destructive criticism to add.
I mean, that is kind of where we are as a society. And especially when you add social media into it, it can be a wave of negative things. I hope, though, with this on the aftermath, has it mainly been a wave of positivity for you?
Oh, it has. Absolutely. There's been a huge influx of just lots and lots of positivity. There's been, a couple haters here and there, which they kind of prepared us for, but nothing compared to the overwhelming positive response.
Now, I know I'm skipping around, but now just as we're on social media, how many people have asked you out online now on Instagram? Do you get a lot of people sliding into your DMs?
An unbelievable amount.
Yeah. So how do you handle that?
There's a couple ways that like sometimes somebody will catch my attention and I'll kind of give a response, but generally speaking, I don't respond to most people just because they don't have a picture of themselves or they don't tell me their first name. I mean, they've got all this information on me, right? Because, it's out there. I am very easy to look up online. I'm on Netflix. People have got all this information on me. And so when they're like, oh, hey, how you doing? I would love to take you on a date. That's great. Who are you? They don't share any information with me on their side. So they know all this about me, but I don't know anything about you. So unless you're going to be forthcoming and share some information with me, I'm generally disinterested in that.
No, that's a very smart one. Please do not change that. Could you imagine if you said yes to yeah, let's do this. Yeah, let's go. Right. Yeah. So before the show though, what was your dating history? Were you on apps? Was that something that you were trying to do regularly? You speak of your experience in the show, and you guys, once again, go watch this because you speak about saying, like sometimes you just go on a date and you don't lead with, I'm on the spectrum or anything like that. Sometimes it takes a while for you to share that. And you had a very good reason because you want people to actually get to know you without any kind of preconceived notions. What is your dating history like before the show?
Before the show, I had a boyfriend in high school. And then shortly after graduating high school, I dated somebody for a brief period of time as well. And I do believe I mentioned it on the show. The boyfriend that I had shortly after graduating, he ended up breaking things off because he wanted to have children and move to a big city and do all these things. And he said that wasn't compatible with me being on the spectrum, which was funny because he was blind.
I'm sorry to laugh, but I mean, that is, I mean, how do you
breaking
not
up
laugh?
with me for being too disabled, but he can't drive a car because he's blind.
That is one of the darkest laughs I've had in a long time when I heard that on the show. But a lot of people, including myself, I've gotten, I think, jaded with love or dating or relationships. Is that the same for you and how you view things of like, oh my God, it's like going up a hill each time to try to meet somebody? What did you think about dating even before the show?
I I kind of think it's like when the time is right, it'll just happen. But
No, you're like my mom.
process,
Jeez.
I mean, you kind of, but you kind of gotta like, take steps and action towards doing that. You can't just wait for the universe to drop the opportunity in your lap. You do have to kind of take steps to get there. And yes, my experience has been those steps have been incredibly painful.
I have one of my comedian friends. She always laughs, and I think you do too, about the photos on these dating profiles. There's always one with a fish. Guys are really proud of like their fish or their hunting. What are the other things that make you laugh when you go out on one of these apps, or kind of commonalities with all these guys?
A lot of times their bios will be very short. And my least favorite bio is, if you have questions, just ask. Which, like, you've got to give me a reason to ask. I don't mind asking a question, but you've got to entice me a little bit,
It is very interesting. It seems like men, men, but men specifically really don't know. I mean, we don't know how to express any emotions, and we want things to get pulled out of us, which is just so weird for somebody that doesn't know you. How would you expect that?
Right. I wouldn't even know what to ask you because you've given me no information.
Exactly. Are you still living with your roommate?
Yes.
Is she enjoying the stardom that you have now achieved? Is she, have you guys gotten noticed when you're out and about now?
We have, yeah. I think the most noteworthy time when we got noticed, we were eating at a restaurant and a man recognized us. He's like, "Oh, are you those people from that show?" And we're like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Wow, that's so cool." And in the middle of his sentence, he drools, like not just like a little, but I mean like a lots of drool comes from his mouth and lands on the floor right next to our table. I don't even think he noticed. He walked away and there was a puddle of drool right there.
He was very excited. That was really
very
amazing.
Strange.
So you speak about this too. And did you watch actually the American version after it was finished? Have you seen all 6 episodes?
Yeah, of course.
Did you, what was it like watching the other people involved in it, their journeys, because they're different than your journey? Was that, what was your feeling watching their journeys?
I really liked watching their journeys. I think I learned a lot from them. And it was interesting to hear their perspective, and they all have so much to offer. So I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. That was what's so great. Like I told you guys earlier, they focus on multiple different people in this. So you get to, watch a lot of people's journeys through this. And it's, some of it's heartbreaking. Some of it really makes you laugh. Some of it's, but it's everything that we experience in our own lives too. So it kind of gave me this like life affirming, hopeful vibe from the whole show. What is the media in general, even before this show, what do they get wrong about being on the spectrum? And what was one of the reasons? Did that ever occur to you that this show could potentially not fall into that pitfall?
Yeah. So I think the media a lot of times talks about autism as it relates to children. A lot of movies and TV shows focus on autistic people being portrayed as being male specifically and having exceptional abilities in academic spaces. And so I really admired Love on the Spectrum for challenging those stereotypes and showing the true diversity of people on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, no, and you explained that a little bit in the, is that you are your strengths that are through this. It was your strength? Because like, I think you also said, but your weaknesses are you're messy a little bit. Or what was your strengths and weaknesses you would consider being neurodivergent?
Just in general?
Yeah, just in general, like what have you noticed about yourself? Like, because we are, like you said, I grew up with that movie Rain Man, where he was doing all these complicated math problems and counting cards, right. And, very different than anything that seems like in reality that I've experienced with people. What are your strengths? And you're like, well, and weaknesses, I can't really do this very well because of this.
Strengths are, I think I have the ability to focus on whatever it is that my passion is, where I guess, well, let me re-say that. For strengths, I am able to focus on where my passion lies and stay focused. I am very detail oriented. I'm very honest, hardworking, dedicated. But I guess for weaknesses, I think it comes down to relationships. So initiating and maintaining relationships is something that I've always struggled with.
Yeah, same. Yeah, no, but do you, The other thing is like, if you are you're able to focus and maybe relationships sometimes take a backseat or it might be a weakness. Are you the type of person I get really sad or down, or if somebody doesn't like me, I'm like bummed out. Do you get that way? Because we experience your journey and we see you go on a date with a gentleman and I thought it was a good date. And what do I know? And then afterwards, you guys didn't continue to see each other. Do those things hurt you, or is it very cut and dry in your head of like, well, on to the next?
No, I mean, I guess it takes me a little longer to get invested into somebody. So I wasn't really emotionally invested in him one way or another, which isn't to say that I didn't want it to work out, because I was hopeful and I was optimistic, but I wasn't particularly attached. So when it didn't work out, I wasn't, distraught or anything.
You're way too level-headed, man. I'm like, what? This guy is crazy. Come on. I don't know if this is for the show, but I think what I was talking about with the gentleman was a speed dating event, which already just sounds horrible on top of horrible. I can't imagine being in a scenario where you have to meet multiple people that you could potentially date. Is that something you would do again, speed dating?
Oh, speed dating was fantastic. In terms of time, it was just so efficient, because if you think about it, the dating apps, the guys, they want you to ask them all the questions. They're not going to be forthcoming. So can you imagine how long that's going to take for me to get to know you, and B, decide if I'm even into any of that? Speed dating is so much more efficient.
Okay, so you are on board with speed dating. Okay, that's good. Speed dating is still in play. That's great. You said you're, very passionate. You can focus on your passions. Obviously, your passion is work right now. But when you were a child, what was the dream? Like, what were you like? This is what I want to do.
Oof! Like as a young child, I think I wanted to be a dog trainer for PetSmart was the goal. That was the dream, is if I could just be a dog trainer and work at PetSmart, that would be the dream come true.
I worked at my first job in high school was at PetSmart, and I was one of the loaders of dog food, and they would make you wear like a back belt so you didn't hurt your back because you were lifting like 50-pound bags of dog food. And it was awesome. Everybody would bring in their dogs. It was great. But you kind of do get to work with animals and things like that. So do you consider that you are living your dream right now in a way?
Oh, absolutely. I do work with dogs pretty consistently. Not at a PetSmart, thankfully, but
no offense, PetSmart.
Yeah,
no offense,
right. Yeah. Of course. I don't think I could have anticipated that advocacy would be part of my long-term goals. And I am really thankful to work for a company that is really progressive and is really kind of helping me take on that role.
In getting cast on this show, were there creative discussions, or they even said they kind of warned you about social media and things like that? Did they prepare you for the shooting of this? And did they let things naturally happen, or would they try to guide you into certain ways?
They mostly let things happen naturally. There would be like a couple instances where they'd be like, oh, could you say this differently? Or could you ask this question? But aside from that, it was all very natural.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I hoped it would be. Okay, so we had the weirdest fan interaction with somebody who was drooling at a table. And of course, there's some haters online. What is the nicest thing that anybody has come up and said to you or DM'd you? Is there something that really hit you emotionally?
Yeah, somebody wrote a poem for me yesterday, and it was really good. Like really good poem.
Oh, really good. Wait, like a love poem or just like a inspirational poem?
Somewhere in the middle of those two things.
Wait, and what was your response to the poem? Were you like, do you like, thank you? This is a great poem.
No, I was just like, thank you so much. That is like really beautiful and unexpected.
That's amazing. Okay. Yeah, that's so TV has been opened up to you. You had mentioned earlier you had dated a blind man that wanted to move to a big city, potentially. I know this might be silly to you, but would you ever now consider coming to Hollywood or a big city, or are you very happy with where you're at right now?
I'm happy with where I'm at right now. I can't say that I would never, ever move, but I don't see it in the cards for the immediate future.
Okay, we're not going to see you on a sitcom, or like you're not going to be playing a detective in Hollywood. Probably on a TV show. Okay, that's good to know. And we still don't know, like I said earlier, if it has been picked up for a second season, but you would be willing to do that if it did come.
Correct.
Okay. We got to get a second season of this. I'm telling you, this was one of the best viewing experience I had. And it was one of those things where I started with one episode and I couldn't finish. I had to finish all of it in one sitting. What did your family think about it watching it? Did they think this was an accurate representation of Kaelyn?
Yeah, they were really excited. They actually rented a venue and hosted a viewing party for pretty much everybody.
I saw that on your Instagram. That was so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has any of your friends yet thought you've gotten a big head now from the stardom? Has anybody like Hollywood Kaelyn?
My roommates joked about it, but not really.
Coming up with social media and things like that, seeing that you do have a reach, is there anything that you would like to share on social media or causes that you would like to make people more aware of that you would consider using your following to promote?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I have a lot of information to share as it relates to autism and advocacy. And I would love to use that platform to be able to reach more people and to help more people.
When were you aware, or when are you, I don't know the experience of being diagnosed with being on the spectrum, or at what age are you aware that maybe things are a little different than they are for other people?
I didn't get diagnosed until I was 10, but my parents knew, well, really my mom knew kind of, I want to say early childhood, like very early childhood. It's just that the doctors wouldn't have taken her seriously because I was born in Vermont. And back then they kind of laughed at the prospect of a girl having autism. And especially because I was able to speak early and speak in sentences, they said, oh, well, there's no language delay. There's no way, even if I was showing every single other symptom besides language delay, they just didn't see it. But I had kind of always felt different from everybody else my entire life.
Was being diagnosed, was that almost a relief when you were like, oh, this is why I feel a little different than everybody else?
I think for my parents, for my mom specifically, it was intimidating. Like, I think she knew that there was going to be something, but when they kind of came out with all of what it was, I think she was intimidated by it for sure. And I didn't find out until I was in high school. They didn't tell me until I was older.
They didn't even tell you. Wow.
No, they told me. Yeah, so we went to Orlando, Florida to do 5 days worth of testing. So I obviously had some questions.
Wait, what did they tell you? We're going to Disney. This is Disneyland.
Well.
This is Disneyland. This isn't testing.
They said, you're going to play with this nice lady. And we're going to go to Disney.
For 5 days. Well, so what is, I don't know if to go back there when they do tell you, what is that experience like? Do they take you out to dinner and go, we have to talk about something? Like, what is that experience like?
We watched a movie, actually. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a documentary. Well, it's not a documentary, but it's like whatever the version of a biography in a movie is of Temple Grandin.
Yes. Yeah. Was it Drew Barrymore that played Temple, or who was the actor? I'm trying to, guys, it's
Claire
amazing
Danes.
though. It's on Claire Danes. Yeah. On HBO. It was really great. So they made you watch that.
Yeah. So we watched Temple Grandin. I watched it with my mom and she was like, yeah, so this is Temple Grandin. And actually you're a lot like her. And here's why. And I was like, oh boy.
And then she tried to hug you. Yeah. It's amazing. Do you remember, was there any kind of emotional response when they did tell you that, or was like, oh, cool?
I don't think so. I mean, I kind of always knew that there was something, and I had heard the word, autism tossed around a couple of times. So I wasn't completely shocked. I just didn't understand how it related to me specifically.
Yeah, no. I know this is kind of off topic and a little silly, but I was just curious what you actually do enjoy watching. Do you watch TV? Like, what is your favorite shows? What's your favorite kind of music? What do you enjoy doing in your off time?
In terms of TV, people pick on me for having poor taste, but I generally watch a lot of trash TV, just a lot of reality,
Yes. What reality shows do you watch?
90 Day Fiance, My 600 Pound Life, the good stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Have you seen Seeking Sister Wives yet?
Yeah, I have.
It's a mess. Like, everything on TLC is a complete mess. And that's why that's why I kept telling people, because I focus on a lot of those shows and I was like, this is such a great, it shows that there can actually be quality to these things. Cause you watch like TLC and I legitimately get frightened sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, life is wild. But then it was so real to me. And I related to things so much in this, but it's hysterical. Like, this 90 Day Fit, like, it is It is the most fun to view. Like Sunday nights, 2 hours of 90 Day Fiance is wild. So, okay, you watch do you watch any Bravo or Housewives or anything like that?
Not recently. Just a lot of TLC, a lot of Discovery Plus.
So it's mainly if somebody has something wildly wrong with their bodies or their love life. Yeah.
Pretty much.
What kind of music do you enjoy?
A lot of alternative rock.
Like what? Like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, like or more that, or is that too classic rock now?
Yeah, I was gonna say that might be a little older.
What is considered dang it! I keep trying to tell people I'm not old. What is considered alternative rock for you now?
Oof. Max, AJR.
Oh my God, AJ! I don't even know any of these people. Kaelyn, what are you? This is wild. This is the weekend. I'm talking to you on a Friday. What are your weekend plans? Will there be any dates this weekend? What do you like to do on the weekends?
You know, I was invited to a FaceTime date from a guy who lived a couple states away.
Are you going to do, is this the person that did the poem?
No, it is not. A different one.
Are you going to do a FaceTime date?
I am tentatively going to do a FaceTime date.
Have you ever done a FaceTime date before?
No, but much like speed dating, it seems kind of efficient. You don't have to drive. There's no commute. You can kind of figure out if you like each other pretty quick.
Okay, so FaceTime date is potentially on the agenda. I don't know those things. FaceTime, like, what was I guess we still are in a pandemic in a way. Things have loosened up a little bit. For your experience, though, during the pandemic, what was that like for you in South Carolina over the last couple of years? And were you filming during the pandemic?
We were. The crew was all wearing masks. Obviously, the people filming did not have to wear masks, but in South Carolina, it was tough because there was part of the population who did not believe that COVID was real and didn't exist and didn't wear a mask, and that was I would say most of it. And then there was the segment of the population who did believe that it was real and were wearing masks, and those people were not friends.
Yeah, it seems like the state of our country right now. It's a lot of disagreement about everything. But personally, even before filming or whatever, what was the experience that you went through? For me, it was very isolating. I was able to do a podcast from my room the entire time. But for you, what was the experience like? And, with your job and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for everybody, the experience was isolating. In terms of work life, it was incredibly isolating just because we're considered a medical service. So it was really, really strict here in terms of protocol and procedure and isolating everybody from each other. They closed the playground. They wouldn't let the kids play on the playground because they didn't want the germs of the playground to spread. So it was very extreme.
Wow. At the place you work, is it a place where, what is the main, just in terms of what do you guys do to help?
Yeah, so we get kids and adults who are diagnosed on the autism spectrum. We provide therapy services, education services, employment services, and they focus on communication and social skills and advocacy skills, things that are really, really important for people.
I have a lot of listeners that actually do have children on the spectrum. But for people that are even curious or think that, there's something a little different about their child, what do you recommend for parents that are curious and even for children?
Pre-diagnosis or post-diagnosis?
Both.
So if I would recommend that if you suspect that there is something going on with your child, I would recommend to get that checked out as soon as possible, because early diagnosis is crucial in understanding and acceptance and, accessing services and treatments that are available to them. And those services will be a lot more effective if they're provided at a younger age. Post-diagnosis, I would suggest finding a therapist in your area who is qualified to work with your child and will sit down and work with you on goals that are relevant to you and your family and your child, and work with them in a way that is socially acceptable.
Has the blind guy now come back now that you're on TV? Has he come like, hey, I heard you're on TV now? Has he reached out at all?
He has not said a word.
Wow. Interesting. I'm curious if he's going to pop back up at some point. On the show itself, as we start winding down a little bit, did you have a favorite character besides yourself? Obviously, was there somebody that you were like, I really love where their journey is going?
I really like Abby. She was really into The Lion King. And as a young child, I also really loved The Lion King. So I think we would get along very well.
Have you? Yeah, that's what I was going to like. Have you met all of your castmates?
None of them. I've not met anybody in person.
Have you, but I'm sure you've had communications or DMs or family members, anything?
No, not really. They said we could reach out to each other online, but that was about it, just because we live so far away.
Would you be ever interested in meeting any of them in person?
Oh yeah, I would love to meet them in person.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah. Abby was great. I love the wide-eyed, the enthusiasm, I mean, that's what I love is just people that she just loves the Lion King. She wants and I love how I don't know, this is great. Has this overall show affected your view of love in any sort of way, good or bad, or has it remained the same that you had before the show?
I mean, I think there's a lot of variables to account for, but I would say I feel kind of the same way about it.
Which is, if it happens, it happens. It's good. It's good. But you don't think it's do you think it's essential? Like a lot of my friends will say, if I don't find love, then I've failed. Like they almost take it as a personal thing. I don't think you have that viewpoint. Is that correct?
Not yet, but maybe in a couple of years.
Yeah, give it a couple of years. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like my audience to know, or ways that we can kind of support the show or support you? Is there something that we need to be paying attention to, or that you would like us to pay attention to?
I think overall, the important message is that there's a saying that goes, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism, which is to say that we are all individuals. Everybody is different. And so you might have the same condition with even the same symptoms, but it's going to present so differently within different individuals and different cultures.
Yeah, it's not everything is just the same, you know? This Kaelynn Partlow, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. I really do appreciate it. And I got to just tell you, I'm really a huge fan of yours from watching this show. And I'm just so ecstatic to be able to talk to you. I've been talking about this show for now a couple of weeks, and it's just a true honor for me to speak with you. And I hope everything great for you in your future.
Well, thank you so much.